And a top story this half hour, an 87-year-old man who shot a neighbor's child, allegedly mistaking him for a monkey, has been granted bail of 1,000 rand. Beatrice Mieza faces murder charges for shooting and killing Bongmusa Duma, 12-year-old. The state did not oppose the bail application as the accused is old and fragile. Bongmusa Duma died after being shot in the head in the rural area of KwaMhlangathini on the south coast on Sunday morning after he climbed a tree. The court will resume the case on the 4th of April.
Sunday morning, my father saw the monkeys there. He tried to go and shoot the monkeys, but sometimes there is a neighbor saw the monkeys again. She sent the baby, two babies. The babies, when they came there to chase the monkeys, they asked themselves to fetch a guava too. When my father came there, he didn't know that there is a child now there by the trees. He was thinking still the monkeys. So when the trees were moving, my dad was shot there.
Well, we can confirm that Beatrice Mieza has received 1,000 rand bail today. We saw him just walking out with his family a few minutes ago. But even in court, he kept on reiterating when the magistrate was clarifying some details of him, from him. He kept on reiterating that I didn't do it on purpose, it was a mistake. And time again, the magistrate had to stop him and just ask him to answer the questions that she's asking him, emphasizing that it's not yet the trial date or the trial time. And even when we saw him walking out, he came personally to me and he said, "Can I please tell everybody that he did not do this on purpose?"
And joining us live in studio is Chris Malimaja, Sanko Gauteng Provincial Chairperson, and you're welcome to give us a call. The lines are open on 011-542-2186. Thanks so much, Mr. Malimaja, for joining us. Of course, the reaction from this particular case almost resembles what we have seen previously, farm owners alleging that they mistook a particular human being for an animal. What is your reaction to today's developments?
Thank you very much, Cindy, and all the viewers at home. I think as the civic movement, we are very much disappointed the manner in which things are happening in our own country. You find a situation where an old person of that caliber still having a right to have a gun in his hand, where it raises a number of questions to say, how on earth an old person of that age can be allowed to carry such a dangerous weapon, and without noticing that at that certain age, they should have realized and taken the gun away from him. Today we are told here a young child has been mistook to be an animal. There is no way that you can't see an animal or can't differentiate between an animal and a human being. Human being has got clothes on. Then the animal doesn't have clothes. So the question is what was the range? What was the range between the two? Because the old man, if says no, mistook to be an animal, it means the old man can't see. Then why?
He could be visually impaired or senile. The court also gave him bail today based on his age and the fact that he's fragile. But Zanele Mlwana is a Deputy National Convener of Black First Land First. Zanele, thanks so much for your time. It is really a tragedy, having to lose a child, and worst of it all, the neighbors now having to live with the perpetrator next door to him. His age does come into question, but I think the bigger issue that we need to raise is the access to guns and whether people of a certain age should not be in a possession of a firearm. What's your reaction?
Well, let me start. The access to guns should be of a secondary issue. What we should think about regarding this racist incident is how white people, through racism, have perpetuated and normalized stereotypes against black people and likened them to animals. A white man shooting a black boy who is a full human being and saying it was a monkey is a clear racist act and should be condemned by society.
Yeah, but you know what? This is, for me, the irony is that in this case, both the perpetrator and the victim are black. So what is the narrative then when it comes to this particular supposed mistaken identity?
Yeah, now it's very unfortunate then that the young boy was shot and was being mistaken for a monkey, because there's a distinct difference between what a monkey looks like and what a full human being looks like, and it was rather quite very irresponsible then from the old man to not even assess the situation in terms of what's happening outside his house and immediately take out a gun and shoot for death. And it's rather unfortunate, and we should be able to deal with this in a very creative way, to say you can't, even if you are, I don't think this was a situation where this man, his life was threatened. The man should have assessed the situation and not have acted by shooting, because now you have a life loss. You have a life loss. You have parents who are grieving for this child, a child who could have held a brighter future. So we should just, as black people, remove violence from the way we interact with each other as a people, and think quite in detail about our actions as a people.
Just stay on the lines, Zanele. We'll also take calls on 011-542-2186. Yet another mistaken identity. An old man mistaking a child, his neighbor for that matter, a 12-year-old, for being a monkey. And this would be a child that he would be familiar with. You know, that would know probably his mannerisms or tendencies. It may even be a child that he interacted with. So at which point does this boy now resemble a monkey and therefore justified to be shot?
No, thanks. You see, all in all, these are just tricks to try and say, I've done it. There's no any reason that can be given that can justify why this person must not be sentenced. To that extent, why this person cannot be denied a bail. One is so worried that a mere neighbor who knows the child, at some stage, the very same son confesses that he did send those children to go and chase out the monkeys here and there. Today comes around and behaves as if he doesn't know what is a monkey. Then what is it that was shooting? Because for one to get a license, you are given a license after you pass the test that you know what is the target and what kind of target you shoot.
Zanele, but do you think that age lessens the gravity of the crime? The fact that the 87-year-old perpetrator has been granted bail and reintegrated with society, so to speak, that in itself is additional trauma for the family.
Yeah, and I think with this particular incident, it's very unfortunate that we have lost a life, but we must allow then the families of the perpetrator and both of the victim to find an even ground on how they are going to deal with this particular matter. It's very unfortunate that violence was inflicted.
All right, I think we lost Zanele there. We'll have to try and patch you again. You come and go, Zanele. We'll have to get back to you. So what is the civic organization doing, especially when it comes to, one, education around a safe use of firearms, and the fact that when you take aim, you need to be almost 100% certain that it's not inflicting pain on another human being, deliberately at least.
I think our call for years, we have been saying, can we be a state-free gun kind of state, where all guns can belong to the state? We can't behave in a situation where we have a lot of uncontrolled guns in the hands of people who them not necessarily suit to be carrying those guns. Because you compare the age, obviously tells you that at that age, that person is not allowed to have a dangerous weapon in his hand. But in this case, it's an 87 person or old man who has got a gun roaming around. Here's the result. Whereas in this case, neighbor, quietly so put by you to say, the neighbors are going to be looking at him as if it's a killer. There's no way we're going to doubt about it's a killer.
But I mean, the court has to be satisfied that its case is watertight and there is no reasonable doubt, or it's beyond reasonable doubt, in the sense that, based on the condition or the mentality, whether the old man is cognizant of what had happened and his age, etc., they would have to be satisfied that indeed it was a premeditated murder, or that it was a mistake or tragedy that happened.
I think let me take this opportunity to put it this way so that it be understood. I don't think it will be correct for us to say old people or age can be a factor that gives one a license to kill. In that case, I want to tell you, these old people are going to finish us. They will go to where they are getting their grants and buy these things that they kill the rats and come and give us and say, age says, no, I can do this at any time. I don't agree with the question of age. What I'm still condemning, what we are saying as Sanko, is that people at that particular age, they must not have guns on their hands.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, what drove the old man to shoot at the boy, considering that he had lived in close proximity to him for so many years? The boy is 12 years old, and he would probably know the family. What is it that triggered him to commit this act? If it's not mistaken identity, or if it's not the fact that his age is impacting his vision and also understanding.
Thank you very much. I agree with you. To say where I'm standing, I'm convinced that these old people have got tendency of being impatient. You will find that kids have been going there time and again, it becoming impatient that he wanted to scare the guy or the child. Unfortunately, he missed the scaring point, then he shoot the child. Yes.
All right, the number to call is 0115422186. We have Chris Malimaja, Sanko Gauteng Provincial Chairperson. We're trying to get hold of Zanele Luana as well. Do you think that society reacted in the same way, or is there a level of hypocrisy in how we deal with these matters if it involves different racial groups? In this case, it's both black victim and perpetrator, and there seems to be silence there. But Nozipho from Valcom is calling us. Thanks, Nozipho, and George from the Val. We'll start with Nozipho. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Cindy, and good evening to the gentleman sitting over you there.
Thank you.
Can I just emphasize this, that crime has no age? Yes, I do send my condolences to the family, but the problem is I think there's a new gun law that needs to be brought upon. That an old person can own a gun, but then would do sight or eye testing or things like that, like when we do to get licenses. But then crime has no age. I get attacked, my grandmother or my grandparents do get attacked, whether it's 87 or 90. So they do need guns to protect themselves. So in this instance, yes, I send my regards. It happened, it's sadly what happened to the boy, but I think the old man is really sincerely didn't mean to shoot the young boy. It might be poor eyesighting here, some stating.
Thanks so much, Nozipho, for your call. George, you're calling us from the Val. Good evening to you. Hi, George. Good evening. Hi. Hi, George. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I do not understand why we're making issues separate. You know, we have an issue whereby white people can kill white blacks and say it's a racial issue. And now a black person kills a black person and thinks he saw a monkey. I think these cases must be acted on in a similar vein, because even the courts will use precedents in all these cases. It doesn't matter whatever age it is, but the courts must make sure everybody gets the same justice despite the age or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, the punisher certainly has to fight the crime, George. We appreciate it. Treasure is calling us from Mpumalanga. Good evening to you, and thanks for calling. Hi, Treasure. All right, we lost Treasure there. I mean, just from what the callers are saying, that number one, you cannot excuse criminality based on age, and that crime doesn't have, it doesn't discriminate, so to speak. But it's still interesting in how, particularly in the public discourse, this case had been reacted to, as opposed to if the color lines were different.
Thanks. Crime has no color. It must also be emphasized that crime has no color. The way we dealt with when white people mistook black people to be animals, it must apply to this man. Whatever he has done is totally wrong, totally out of... There's no way I can be convinced that all people must still have guns to protect themselves. What I'm saying, and which is reality, for them to have those guns, time and again must go for test. So to do away with the question that can be an excuse to say it was just maybe a poor... outside, which I don't agree with it. It says in terms of the law that you must be at least 100 meters away to an extent that you know exactly what you're doing. So there's no way you can come around and say, no, I mistook this person to be a monkey. Actually, it's an insult. But I want to tell you here, so you understand, there's no way that the old man will come to public and say, I have done it. What the old man will do, will try to show a remorse, and which I didn't see. What I only saw on the TV was a big smile.
Now, well, we heard from our reporter that he is allegedly suicidal and that he has apologized, but that is yet to be confirmed. Let's go to Treasure in Mpumalanga. Good evening to you, Treasure.
Yes, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm fine, thanks. I think the discussion at the table, it has got different elements that as South African we need to attend to. Firstly, a kid has been shot dead, unfortunately, of that incident. But again, it raises a concern in terms of the gun control in South Africa. So our argument should be based on preventive. How do we prevent this situation from happening again? Because if this 87-year-old gentleman is having a gun, how many of them are out there who must be monitored now? Because according to the argument that I'm seeing here, he acted badly based on his age. He acted badly on the fact that he couldn't see whether this was a kid or a monkey. So I think rather than blaming this old gentleman too much, let us focus more on gun control to make sure that tomorrow we don't have another 97-year, then the other day we have got an 85-year who kills more people. So I think now that the minister, in terms of safety and security, needs to revise the acts that are regulating the guns so that we see, as much as in terms of license, you are given a certain age in terms of you can drive a car up to this age, you can start obtaining a driver's license from this age. So even in terms of guns, there should be a strict measure, because if, for instance, I can't reason anymore, then I must be in a position to submit the gun so that I don't kill people. So let's focus on the preventive measure here.
All right, much appreciated. Thanks so much, Treasure. We're joined by Adele Kirsten, spokesperson for Gun Free South Africa. Adele, thanks so much for calling us. Of course, you would concur with most of our callers, the sentiment that we certainly need less firearms in society to avoid accidental deaths and the fact, that people in most cases are attacked using their own firearms. This is a very tragic case where an elderly gentleman shot a 12-year-old neighbor. How does the society even reconcile without, number one, pointing fingers, and secondly, to prevent a similar incidents happening?
I think you've hit the nail on the head, and certainly your previous speaker is this incident was preventable. And so that's part of its tragedy. But we now post the event, and the tragedy is that we have two families and an entire community whose lives are forever changed. And I guess the frustrating thing, the thing that makes one angry, is that this need not have happened. And I guess the key ingredient is the presence of the gun.
But so we've had, sorry, Adele. I mean, how far are we then in ensuring that there are more stringent laws around gun control? Because we know that there is a section of society that believes in self-preservation by using firearms. We're not going to get that away. It's their constitutional right to protect themselves and own a firearm. So how do we tighten the laws, and how do we advocate around the less use of firearms?
I think there are a number of things. The one is that we need to enforce the existing law. So, for example, the Firearms Control Act allows for renewals, which means that if you have a handgun for self-defense, and I'm not sure under what license the shotgun was licensed for Mr. Mieza, but you are required to renew your license every 5 years. And the purpose of the renewal really is twofold. It's an opportunity for the police to determine whether you remain fit and proper. And that would include things like your knowledge of the law, whether you have had incidents of violent behavior in the past, or in this instance, whether you remain physically able to fire a gun. So if there are visual impairments, etc. And that would then automatically exclude you from having your gun renewed. But the other purpose is for the owner to decide, do I continue needing to use this gun, or do I want to continue using it? So it's an opportunity for an owner to reconsider their need for the gun. And so then if you do not meet the criteria for renewal, you can be declared unfit, or your renewal license is refused, or you can choose to hand in your gun. So the existing law makes provision for ensuring that we can check up on gun owners every 5 years.
And Adele, just very quickly, you mentioned that obviously the renewal process is to ensure that you are fit and proper to operate a firearm. In this case, the old man saying he mistook the child, the 12-year-old, to be a monkey, clearly not being able to distinguish between a human being and an animal. Do you think, not to preempt, of course, the court proceedings, that this is something the court would have to consider?
Absolutely, but I think one of the provisions of the Act, and which is very clear for firearm owners in terms of their responsibility, is that you may not fire at anything unless, as the wording says, your target is in clear sight, so that you know what you're shooting at. And it's clear in this instance that the person did not identify the person at whom they were shooting clearly. And so that would be grounds for negligence. And so the gun will be automatically then, if found guilty, will be automatically removed. But I think the other risk of having guns around, and this was demonstrated in this case, is that the old man became suicidal. And I think one of the things we often forget about the gun law is that it's also to protect gun owners from the risk of suicide. So it's not just about protecting the rest of us, but it's also protecting gun owners. So if you do have a history of mental illness, of violent behavior, of threatening people, you're also deemed unfit. And this is both to protect yourself and your family and your community.
And I'll just stay on the line, please. Zanele Luana from BLF is with us. Zanele, just from what we've heard, clearly there's a need for greater engagement and education around the responsible use of guns. But we hear that the old man is unstable, he's frail, and clearly had made a very grave mistake in shooting the 12-year-old boy. But having said that, what do we do as a society going forward and a community to ensure that people that are not fit to operate firearms do not lay their hands on them?
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that we have had quite a few revelations regarding the context in which the incident happened. But what I want to stress and what we need to caution ourselves as black people against is to allow, for example, white liberals and especially media to take these particular incidents to put their anti-black agenda of constantly projecting black people as violent, uncaring, and insensitive, lack of love amongst their own, and all those kinds of backward cultural stereotypes that are currently being held by the white racist media, which continues to drag any kind of story that seeks to problematize black people as a society. And as I have said it was in my opening statement, that it's very unfortunate that we have a situation where a life was lost and a young boy was mistaken for an animal. But we must, as black people, especially regarding this particular incident, stop and
yeah, Zanele, I'm sorry, your line is very busy. We're just going to close off with Chris Malimaja. Just going forward, before you conclude, let's quickly take a caller. Brian in Stellenbosch, hello to you.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
That's nice. Just to comment on what has happened. First of all, an 87-year-old man needs to be competent to use a firearm, and he should be tested at that age, because even if you have a driver's license, you need to be tested at least every year or second year. And it is so sad that he has shot a 12-year-old boy, and not only that, mistaken him for an animal, but the law says that your life must be threatened. So yes, it is very sad. But you know what upsets me? First of all, if they hear I'm from the Western Cape, first of all, they're going to regard me as a racist, number one. Number two is, black people must stop riding the racial wave where it comes to everything. Think of the 14 mine workers that has just been shot. Not this amount of publicity has been given to them, but because this is a white farmer who's living on edge and is paranoid about his life being taken, it is so, so sad. You have a wonderful day.
All right, Brian, but just for clarity, you might be referring to other cases. In this one, the perpetrator, both the victim and perpetrator, are both black. But I understand that, the race card is exhausted in certain instances where it's not necessary. But just in wrapping up, Chris, again, Adele was speaking about that the laws are there, but does it require 5 years for you to be retested, or should that be lessened based on your age?
I think as a civic, we'll love to see a situation where it is lessened. 5 years is too much. If it is lessened, here we are talking about a gun. Even it can be at least once a year. It goes there, you renew, you be tested, so that at the end of the day, if you listen to the speaker, it's not necessarily about your surrounding, even to yourself. It's what you are saying, and I agree with that. In this case, that for you not to be in danger, we are saying at least after 12 months, go for this so that you'll be able to know where to target, not to mistake people. And as Civic, we would like to take this opportunity to send our sincere, deepest condolences to the family, and want to say to the law that let aging also be part of why you are not allowed to use the gun going further.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Chris Malimaja, Sanko Gauteng Provincial Chairperson. We had Adele Kirsten, spokesperson for Gun Free South Africa. Zanele Luana is Deputy National Convener for Black First, Land First. And you at home, thanks so much for calling in as well. We do apologize for the break in audio here and there. Our technicians are hard at work fixing that.